Hello and welcome or welcome back to Life Admin 365. I'm Dipty and today I'm sharing with you two simple and easy sweet dishes that I make for any celebratory occasions, be it festival, prasad offerings or even birthdays. First one is Gul Papdi or Gul Papdi Vadi or Sukhadi. This is a traditional sweet dish that is typically made in Indian homes during the winter months. However, my eye makes it during Ganpati festival and so do I. So let's get started. To make Gul Papdi, here I have 2.5 cups of whole wheat flour or atta, half a cup of coconut flour which is optional, 2 tablespoons of poppy seeds or khaskhas which is optional as well, 2 cups of homemade ghee split as 1.5 cups and half a cups. Yes, it's a lot of ghee, but don't be afraid. If you use less ghee, the vadi or the burfi is not going to form and it will be crumbly. And then 1.5 cups of crushed gud or jaggery and 1 teaspoon of powdered cardamom. Process is very simple. On low heat, place a ceramic coated pan or a non-stick pan. Add 1.5 cups of homemade ghee. Don't be stingy about the ghee. Ideally, you will need to wait for the ghee to melt completely before adding the whole wheat flour. But I was being a little bit impatient and added the flour before ghee had fully melted. Make sure heat is on low. Start mixing the flour in the ghee. You can see that I'm having some difficulty in mixing the flour with the ghee. This mixing becomes much easier when the ghee is fully melted versus when it is not, and hence you should wait for the ghee to melt fully. Once flour absorbs all of the ghee, it is okay to raise the heat slightly but only by a notch. Now comes the most challenging part, roasting it with constant stirring for good 30 to 40 minutes without burning it. Slowly flour will start changing its color. From pale brown it will start darkening and it will start becoming fragrant as well. I can sense that this is going to need more ghee as the mixture is slightly on the drier side than it should be at this point, but I'm going to wait to add the additional ghee towards the end. Now is the time to once again lower the heat to the lowest setting and add khaskhas or poppy seeds. These are optional and you can skip if you don't have it on hand. However, adding these gives a slight grainy texture that breaks the monotony of the smoothness of the vadi. Plus, it's fun to try to buy poppy seed in between your front teeth. Do give it a try if you use poppy seeds. Anyways, mix poppy seed in the mixture and roast for another 5 to 7 minutes on the lowest heat setting. Once you start smelling poppy seed aroma, it's time to add desiccated coconut, or in my case, coconut flour. This one is also optional, but we like the taste of coconut, so I added. Heat is still on the lowest as it's easy to burn this mixture. Mix in coconut flour until well incorporated. It's been about 30 minutes that I have been roasting this mixture and now I have switched my hands. My right hand has had too much of exercise and is in desperate need of a break. When well incorporated, add crushed gud to the mixture. Turn up the heat by a notch somewhere between low and medium and start mixing continuously. Now is the time to add the reserved half a cup of ghee to the mixture. Lower the heat to the lowest setting and continuously mix and roast mixture for a couple more minutes. Then sprinkle in 1/4 teaspoon of powdered cardamom and mix well. At the last minute, I decided to add in a couple of pinches of nutmeg or jaifal, which unfortunately I did not record. Most of the times when gud is being used in large quantities, I add nutmeg. I feel that adding nutmeg to gud sweetened dishes brings out the deep rustic sweetness of gud. Ghee has started to leave from the sides, which indicates that it's right time to stop roasting. Grease a square pan on a plate or a dish with ghee and gradually transfer the roasted mixture to it. Then using the flat side of a vati or a bowl, flatten out and firmly pack the mixture as uniformly and as smoothly as possible. I'm using spatula and straightening the edges and borders. Vadi is not yet set and requires good 3 to 4 hours to set at room temperature. It is a good idea to cut it and then keep it aside for cooling until it sets completely. After about 4 hours, mixture is set and cool enough to handle. Use a butter knife, separate the pieces from one another, and if you have OCD like me, then smoothen the crumbs away from the pieces, and if you have super OCD, then run the knife along the edges to get nice square shaped pieces. These pieces resemble more to the burfi than vadi because vadi is not so fat or thick. Vadi is the skinnier version of burfi, but since I only had a deep pan and not a shallow one, burfi shape is what I ended up with. Ideally, a shallow pan or plate should be used for making vadi. Transfer the pieces to an airtight container and store it at room temperature. This will stay fresh for about a week, but it hardly lasts that long, especially around festival time when we often share our goodies with our friends and neighbors. There are a lot of crumbs remaining because, like I mentioned earlier, I have OCD and I did use the knife to cut around to get somewhat uniform shaped pieces. So I decided to use these crumbs along with the ghee sticking to the pan and prepare some Gul Papdi, which is very similar to what Punjabis call as PANJIRI. Process is exactly the same as above, with the only difference being in the quantities of the ingredients. Gud Papdi is the skinnier version of Sukhadi as it uses less ghee in the preparation. To the same greasy pan, I have added about 3/4 cups of 100% whole wheat flour or atta, and I'm moving it around the pan to soak up the ghee, then roasting it on medium-low heat. There is about a teaspoon or 2 teaspoons of ghee remaining from greasing pan in the earlier preparation, so I am using that up as well. Continuing with the roasting until flour starts to change its color to a pinkish brown shade. Adding leftover vadi crumbs in part and mixing well until the mixture becomes homogeneous. After a taste test, I'm adding about 2 teaspoons or so of crushed gud and incorporating it well within the mixture. And that's it. Gul Papdi is ready. Once it cools completely, transfer to an airtight container. Typically, we eat this as a snack. Add Gul Papdi to a bowl and add warm milk and enjoy to your heart's content. The next one is my favorite, Prasada Cha Sheera or Suji Halwa. No introduction is really needed for Sheera or Suji Halwa, and it's pretty quick and easy to make. This particular Sheera is slightly different because it is typically made when we have Satyanarayana Puja in our house or when you want to offer it as a prasad or naivedya. As long as you have the ingredients in the right ratio, this recipe will turn out perfect. Literally a foolproof recipe. So here I have 1 cup of fine semolina or rava. Fine is preferable, but if you have coarse, you can use that as well. Then I have 1 cup of homemade ghee. Next is 1 cup of sugar and then 2 cups of full fat milk. So the ratio is 1:1:1:2 of semolina, ghee and sugar to full fat milk. And lastly, I have 1/3 cup of small golden raisins and about half a teaspoon of cardamom powder. First, keep milk for heating on low-medium heat. You want to have the milk simmering when you're ready to add it to prepare sheera. Place a pan on medium-low heat and to it add all of the 1 cup of ghee. Yes, it does seem a lot, but this is Prasad sheera, so it is richer than what we typically make. Plus, its serving size is very small, so the ghee goes a long way. Unlike Gul Papdi, ghee needs to melt completely before adding rava or semolina. Yes, I was being really patient and waited for the ghee to melt before adding in my semolina. Now the process of stirring and roasting begins. Make sure heat is somewhat between low and medium while roasting semolina. Typically for Prasad sheera, we add a mushed up banana and roast it along with the semolina, but unfortunately I didn't have one on hand, so I skipped it. But if you are adding banana, this is the step to do so. Since we are roasting on lower heat setting, it will take anywhere between 4 and 6 minutes for the suji to be completely roasted. Constantly move the mixture in the pan to avoid semolina from burning. When foamy bubbles start forming on the surface, turn down the heat to the lowest setting. Within 4 or 5 minutes, semolina will start changing its color and will start turning a very light golden brown. At this stage, add golden raisins and mix them into the mixture. You want the raisins to be plump, and that's why you add it at this stage than adding it at a later point. Now is the time to check on the milk. Turn up the heat so that it is simmering and ready for the next step. When you see that semolina is slightly golden brown than earlier, it is time to add the simmering milk. Very carefully and slowly and in portions add simmering milk to ghee semolina mixture. So be very careful and cautious when performing this step. It is important to add simmering or boiling milk so that you get a nice and fluffy sheera. Adding cold or room temperature milk will result in sticky sheera, and we don't want that. There will be loud sizzling sound as water and ghee come in contact with each other. Constantly stir to incorporate milk in the mixture. As more milk gets incorporated in the mixture, sizzling will dissipate and you can add all of the remaining milk. Heat is on its lowest setting with constant stirring, and within a minute all of the milk will be absorbed in the mixture. You will see that semolina is much fluffier than earlier. Now goes in 1 cup of sugar. Incorporate it thoroughly. Water from sugar will start releasing, and now is the time to raise the heat just by a notch in order to evaporate this water. After about a minute of mixing, turn off the heat. Add powdered cardamom and mix well. At this point, sheera is so soft and fluffy and I am having too much fun stirring and mixing it. Time to let go of mixing. Cover and rest for 2 to 3 minutes. Uncover and mix once more. Make sure the water condensing on the lid doesn't fall back into the sheera. Sheera has turned out perfect, fluffy and not clumped at all, ready to be served. Since it is for Prasad, first offering goes to Bappa and then the rest gets divvied among all of us. I hope these recipes were useful to you and you do give them a try. Thank you so much for watching, liking and sharing today's video with your family and friends. And if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to my channel for more homemade recipes, meal planning and meal prepping, and homemaking and home organizing videos. Till the next one, bye y'all.